we talked to you in early July to now, how have things changed, if anything, for the Miami program and how they feel heading into this Saturday?
If anything, the hype's only grown. I think last time we talked, it was, in that kind of dead period in the summer, and we're, a few months removed from spring camp, but not quite at fall camp. And, seems like the Hurricanes have come out of fall camp pretty healthy without any major injuries. And the buzz is there. I mean, everyone's really excited for this game on Saturday. Can't really get too much bigger than Florida and Miami kicking it off. So, it's really exciting, and I think that buzz is just growing.
Yeah, I think one of obviously the biggest talking point this whole offseason, and then now especially as we are heading into week one, is quarterback Cam Ward. And I know we talked some early July about him, but what were the takeaways from Cam Ward throughout camp? How has he looked as a whole? How is he kind of taking over this offense? All of those little tidbits of what looks like it's going to make Miami Hurricanes what they are or are not.
Well, one of my favorite takeaways about Cam Ward is that he's apparently the trash talker supreme of the team. He likes to, crack jokes and, talk trash at the line of scrimmage and stuff. Like I talked to Ahmad Moten, one of the defensive tackles, who was obviously right there, at the line. And he's like, I've heard him say so many things, and, he'll point out a play and, call out a defensive back and say, hey, I'm throwing at you, and then still complete the pass. I remember Moten said that, the thing I hate about Cam Ward is that he doesn't let you forget when he beats you. He'll talk trash all the way to the to dinner and stuff. But overall, from what we saw in fall, still, looked really good, built really good chemistry with the rest of the team, the rest of the offense. The coaches have really praised his leadership abilities. Mario Cristobal refers to him as an alpha all the time. I just really think that he's integrated himself into this offense, and I think we'll see if he misses a beat when faced with opposing real competition that's not just his own teammates in front of a hostile environment. But all signs point to a really capable quarterback who can run this offense well.
Gator fans are hearing you say that, Adam, and they're licking their chops about what can we say to Cam Ward on social media should Florida win on Saturday. You can find Adam on X at AB Lichtenstein. That's Lichtenstein, Stein. And speaking of your X account, Adam, you quote tweeted our good friend Andy Staples' story regarding Billy Napier and Mario Cristobal, hired 8 days apart, both on the same collision course of sorts to being on the hot seat. And you said, what I can say definitively is that the fan base that wins Saturday is going to be absolutely insufferable to the other two big three fan bases on social media. I could not have said it better myself. How hot is the hot seat for Mario Cristobal right now versus should Miami lose on Saturday?
Oh, yeah. Well, first off, in regards to that tweet, it's going to be, with FSU losing to Georgia Tech, whoever wins on Saturday is going to be the king of the state for at least a little bit, and it's going to be tough in these social media streets. But as far as, the hot seat, I don't think Mario Cristobal's on the hot seat, whether he wins or loses, really. If he wins, fantastic. Get to beat a rival. You start the season right. Obviously he's in good shape then. If they lose, depending on how they lose, obviously, perception's everything. If they lose 30-3, that's one thing. If they lose 31-28, it's another. But if it's a close loss, you can chalk it up to road game in week one in the swamp. Things happen. But I don't think if they lose, all their goals are still in front of them. They can still win the ACC, and they have a very favorable schedule. They can still make the playoff. If they win the ACC, or even if they go 11-1 and get a at-large bid, that's possible. So I don't think it's as significant if they lose. I don't think it'll put Cristobal on the hot seat, because I think there's still a ton to play for, and they can still fully course correct their season even if they lose.
Adam, last season, Florida had massive issues on the defensive side, and certainly in the secondary, the linebackers, even the upfront guys. There were issues all across the board. Miami struggled a little bit in the secondary too, but what would you say now moving forward where these two teams see the strengths and the weaknesses?
The things that are going to be really interesting for me to watch on Saturday, there are a few matchups. The first one is Graham Mertz and the Gators wide receivers against the Hurricane secondary, because Miami lost almost their entire starting secondary to the NFL. Both starting safeties, their starting nickelback, They're starting, one starting outside cornerback are all gone. And they had to replace that with a mix of, rising young players. They got a couple of transfers in. But we had, the transfers, should be good. And one of the younger players who's probably going to be starting is Damari Brown, who's a very highly touted prospect coming out of high school. So they've got talent, but they just haven't done it with UM. And that's been the biggest question mark is UM secondary. And Mario Cristobal said it at his press conference yesterday. Or on the radio yesterday, I think, that he hopes people keep, talking down on the secondary because he thinks they can definitely achieve what they need to achieve. I think he thinks they have a good secondary, and they might. We just haven't seen them do it yet. Also looking forward to seeing, kind of the battle in the trenches. A Mario Cristobal team is built to win in the trenches, and this team looks like, one of the teams he had at Oregon. They're big on the offensive line. They returned 3 out of 5 starters, and they really like the center, Zach Carpenter, that they got from Indiana. And the defensive line should be one of the strengths of the team as well. They return a couple of key guys like Ruben Bain, who was the ACC Defensive Rookie of the Year last year. Akeem Mesidor is healthy after missing most of last year. And they brought in a ton of transfers like Tyler Barron, Elijah Alston, a couple defensive tackles. So they really should dominate in the trenches, or if not dominate, at least perform well in the trenches. And that's going to be something to keep an eye on as well.
Yeah, I think something that's going to be interesting, too, is last year when you look at the ACC as a whole, Miami was right in the middle of the pack when it came to a run offense. And then later in the season, obviously, Mark Fletcher suffered an injury. It seems like he is good to go. So a two-part question for you here. Is he 100% and ready for this weekend? And also, in general, what is that running back room looking like now?
Yeah, luckily, Mark Fletcher does seem to be 100% healthy. That's what Mario said yesterday. He's someone who I've covered since he was in high school, and he's really fun to watch out of the backfield. He's a really solid player. He's built like a linebacker, so watching him in high school was like watching a man versus boys. And in the running back room in general should be, their whole offense is a strength, but should be one of the offensive strengths because you have Mark Fletcher who's healthy again. They brought in Damian Martinez from Oregon State, who was a 1,000-yard rusher and an All Pac-12 pick last year. They think extremely highly of him. He'll probably be the lead back who will get the most carries this season. Injuries, health, assuming he stays healthy. And then behind those two, you have A.J. Allen, who was also injured in the spring, didn't play in spring, but he rushed for, I think, about 350 yards last year, give or take. Pretty solid player, a pretty good number 3 option. Then they have a freshman in Jordan Lyle from St. Thomas Aquinas down here in Broward County, which they like a lot. Really solid running back in high school. He's still a freshman, but, they swung him from Ohio State. And they think very highly of him. And then they got a couple guys like Chris Johnson, who's got track star speed, and I say that literally because he was our track player of the year at the Sun Sentinel when he was in high school. And Chris Wheatley Humphrey, who was a 2,000-yard rusher in high school last year. So they got a very deep and talented running back room. I think we'll see 3 or 4 of those guys, fairly regularly. I think they're not going to give Damian Martinez 35 carries a game. They're going to swap guys in and out, keep guys fresh and keep them from, accruing too many miles. But all the guys they have are pretty solid running backs, are, either young and up and coming or they're proven and really good.
Wrapping up with Adam Lichtenstein on the Garber Auto Mall hotline, talking Canes, talking Gators. Let's talk local guys up here in Northeast Florida, Adam, and I'll segue and partner that up with a conversation we just had in the aftermath of Florida State's loss to Georgia Tech. I think kind of an under-the-radar storyline here is the fact that Jalen Rivers, of course, by way of Northeast Florida, is now the starting left tackle for the Miami Hurricanes. I bring Jalen up, A, to check in on him, see what you've seen from him, but B, because we just got done saying, when you watched Florida State, Georgia Tech, Adam, it was a bit of a throwback of sorts. It reminded you that this game, it doesn't matter how many track stars you have coming out of the backfield or at that X wide receiver position, it is ultimately won in the trenches. When you look at Florida-Miami this weekend, who wins that battle of the trenches?
Yeah, well, first off, with Jalen Rivers, and he plays into that, battle of the trenches, I don't think I or Miami's coaches or anyone in the media can really speak highly enough of him. We actually just spoke to him today in a press conference, but he's become a big-time leader, an anchor on that left side of the line. Very solid performance last year in his first full year at left tackle because they had moved him all around in his first couple of years. First full year at left tackle last season, did an excellent job. Came back, could have gone to the NFL last year, decided to come back, And I think he's being projected potentially as a first round pick. He's a very good left tackle. I think he's really built himself a niche at UM. I think he's gonna do well for himself at the next level. And then when it comes to the battle, like the trenches, like I said earlier, I really think Miami's got the advantage. I mean, that's what Mario Cristobal preaches, being a former offensive lineman himself. The offensive line, starts with Rivers, and you have a Nez Cooper, who's one of those guys that he's playing right guard. He's one of those guys that like Mario Cristobal and Alex Mirabal basically picked up kind of out of nowhere. He was like a late signee in February signee, 3-star prospect, like outside the top 1,000 out of Alabama, and they've molded him into a really solid starting right guard. He's been starting ever since somebody got hurt in 2022. So he's going into his second full season as a starter, and he was a guy who was not highly touted. Then you have a guy who was extremely highly touted in Francis Mauigoa, the right tackle, and they loved him. Mario Cristobal said earlier in the fall that they're going to use him like a weapon because he's a physical freak. A guy who's that big shouldn't be able to move that fast. I think they clocked him like he's 330 pounds and he runs like 19 miles an hour. Like, just imagine getting hit by somebody like that. It's like going to be like getting hit by a truck. So I think on the offensive side of the line, they're really set. And on the defensive side of the line, like I talked about earlier, they really should just be loaded. They should have a lot of depth, guys they can rotate in and out. I would not want to be an opposing offensive line or quarterback.
Adam, what I find most ironic about this matchup is the fact that all the focus is pretty much on the offenses and these two quarterbacks in Graham Mertz and Cam Ward, and yet no one's really talking about the fact that these two teams are combined 1-9 over their last 10 games.
Yeah, that's why this game is such a big tone setter. Miami's offense was not very good for most of last year. Basically, once ACC play started, their offense went downhill pretty quickly. But like I said, they've got the receivers, they've got the quarterback, they've got the running back, they've got the line, they've got the tight ends. Like, they should be really good. And Florida, I know they made some additions. That Graham Mertz, had a decent year. Had a pretty high completion percentage. He's a capable quarterback. So I think that's why this game is so important to both teams, that they really need to get that bitter taste out of fans and the teams now, because last year ended so poorly for both of them.
Absolutely. Well, we really appreciate your time, and certainly we are all looking forward to Saturday at 3:30.
Yep, thanks for having me. I'll be in the swamp, and I'm really excited for it.
Stay cool out there, Adam. God bless. I know even in the press box, it's not exactly an ice box down there in Gainesville.
Yeah, it'll be toasty.
Thank you, Adam. We appreciate it.
Hey guys, Taylor Dahl here. Thanks so much for checking out our 1010XL Florida Gators page. If you're looking for more Florida content, subscribe now. But if you're looking for some professional football, NFL content, head over to our 1010XL Jaguars page.